Hey everyone, remember this aircraft from the Lego so-called passenger airplane set that came out in summer 2020? Well, in spite of the name of the set, it was actually a combi model based on a real-life type of airliner designed to carry both passengers and cargo. The problem with the Lego version was that it only carried 5 passengers. 5 passengers in a thing this big, and that was just kind of crazy in a bad way. So on my own time, for my own entertainment and fun, I decided to take out the combi model portion of it, take out the cargo carrying dedicated area, and use up a whole bunch of space in the middle of the fuselage that previously was almost unused, and make it carry 27 people instead. My goals with the modifications were to get as many minifigures to sit in there as reasonably possible, comfortably, or at least looking comfortably, and to keep the overall design as close as reasonably possible to the original design. So there's no added length here whatsoever. It's the exact same original fuselage length and fuselage width. Like, it's the same size of plane. It's just using interior space much better. To do this conversion, and I did kind of go above and beyond to do a few other things that I personally just wanted to see done, but I did bring in a couple of additional parts. I just pulled them off of a different set in order to get these roof segments back here, which are the larger parts, because the ones that came with this set back here did not have enough clearance inside. So you see these have this nice wide area, this 6-stud wide area here with this channel. So you can fit minifig heads up in that space. The other ones would come down very frequently and just wasn't as efficient. So I added these in as a couple extra pieces. I did some other modifications, but otherwise, functionally, this is basically the same craft, just converted to pure passenger use. What's kind of striking here is that you can immediately see the original seats because I haven't moved them one bit. They're kind of in a first class area here. So one right there, and then 2 pairs, and that's it. So the gray colored seats have their original leg room and everything. I actually could have squeezed in another person, but I wanted to leave this aisle space open. You can actually put a wheelchair there optionally. But all the yellow seats, those are new. Those are the ones that I added in. So it's like 2 buses worth of minifigures that were added to this as capability for it to carry comfortably, with enough room for them to still be able to move their arms around a little bit. You know, they can have different types of hair. The longest types of female hair would not fit with these seats, but I mean, there are options for how you could do this without using the traditional Lego seats, but I just like the traditional Lego seats. And I did want to keep a restroom in this in some way, so I did keep the original toilet, just lifted it up a little bit, got the little toilet paper roll, and turning this around the other way, sorry about that, also still has a sink in there with a basin and everything, and this door will open. Like, there's not great clearance there. I could have taken out one seat, and that would allow me to have some room for something else in addition back there, but that's preserved overall as a feature of this, so you can still have people using the restroom and everybody else can be seated. Now, what I did for the spacing for the seats was alternate between jumpers and plates to hold them down. So there is a 1/2 stud space between each seat. Just gives them a nice little bit of extra room. That one guy doesn't have his leg all the way down there, but yeah, it gives them enough space to fit in comfortably. And again, just these front ones I left as they were, essentially with a little bit of extra leg room to represent first class seating. So it's not the absolute maximum that's possible within this space, but to get access even to some of this additional space here, which wasn't available, that did not have a flat floor on the original, I dropped the wing. It was the very first thing that I did when I started on this modification, was to pull the wing off, remove everything down to the lowest reasonable point here. We've got these extra large pieces that form the base of the fuselage. That became my new floor, like the lowest reasonable point. It is possible to go lower than that. I didn't feel like it, honestly. I didn't want to completely redesign the whole thing. I didn't want to go too far with it, keeping most of the original structure and just, yeah, previously this was like up here. So I dropped it, I think it was about the height of a brick. And that allowed me to have the floor area just a single plate higher than the front area all the way back through the rest of the space. So all of this is the same depth. The floor is at the same height and it's all just flat. So that made all the difference in the world when it came to opening up space and possibilities for doing things inside. Now, because this is lifted up one single additional plate here, you can see that the heads don't line up properly with the windows. Of course, they didn't before, but they were a little bit better, you know, in the original design. Like if you're down here, now you can see faces through windows. Now, with the new ones that I put in, doesn't work so well. But hey, it fits 27 passengers instead of 5. There was not a whole lot of proper modification that went on to do this. You know, I had to obviously add in a bunch of additional window pieces, and I used the double ones as much as possible. Changed up the color scheme. Well, not the color scheme, but the distribution of color a little bit. Has a lot less of this flame yellowish orange because I wanted to keep that sticker just because, I mean, we already had the sticker on the back and everything. So just, you know, little stuff was done to fill things in. And also another thing that was very important for me was to fix the landing gear, because I talked about this in my review of the set, that the landing gear did not work very well because they had this center gear, which is a feature of some modern real planes, but it was back too far and it was aligned in such a way that if you tried to go for a takeoff, the entire aircraft, or a landing, the entire aircraft would be balancing on just that center gear pair, just the center wheels, which would then make it feel really tippy, like it didn't feel right. So I adjusted that so they're now not completely aligned, but the center one is just a little bit forward. So it's actually much more realistic without having to redesign anything. So it comes down on the rear pair and then immediately or very quickly touches down onto the front pair. And you can see that's now rolling down under there as well. A small little hair there. And finally, just one extra little thing that I wanted to do was to improve the look of the engines. I actually lifted the engines up just a little bit, so there's a little bit less vertical offset there. Gave them a little bit more clearance. I had to, because I moved the whole wing down, so I had to move the engines up a little bit and offset the gear a little bit, make the gear a little bit lower. But they still have clearance. But I added these cones on the back just to make them look a little bit better, and added an extra dish or disc inside there so you couldn't see straight through. Previously, you could see straight through. It was very awkward to me, but that's completely optional. But net result, I've got clearance now for the engines, both sides, and the gear work much better. While I was doing modifications, I decided to increase the size of the tail as well. And yes, that is definitely unfortunate that we have multiple different colors of the same color from Lego. It's super, super obvious right there, the inconsistency of colors. Those are slightly different ages, but none of them are more than like 5 years old or something like that. And it's mostly just variations from different batches and not from the aging process or anything like that. But I did want to have a much larger vertical stabilizer on this thing. So I made one, and I was limited in the parts that I had on hand. So this is all built upside down. See, there's the base of it, just because of the shape and sizes of pieces that I had available. So that was the best shape that I was able to get. Reversed it, it's upside down. Filled in a little bit of the space on the side here with a couple of tiles that are just gently attached. And there you go. I also increased the size of the horizontal stabilizers. They're still fully studded on top. Not the best look, but I like the fact that these are actually fully swept back now. The leading and trailing edges got a little bit of root in here as a little bit of blending. And because of the way that the colors worked out, I swapped this out to a white piece so it would just be consistent all the way through on the roof section. And the white piece comes from the Friends aircraft, passenger aircraft that they did also this year. It's also the place where I got these additional 2 large roof segments. That's basically my main donor set for this minor conversion here, and that's pretty much it. I will tell you the thing that I like least about this now, based on my own modifications to this, are the front to back proportions. The engines, I feel, need to be remounted forward a bit, but I just didn't want to go into additional modifications for those. I mean, they're okay where they are, but they would be better. They would look better, look more realistic if they were forward again, like on the original model. But I didn't have enough vertical clearance to make that happen. Also, I think the wing itself is a little bit too far aft. I think that would look better if that was moved forward. And there's definitely room to make that happen. Like I could easily shift that all the way up to here without changing anything. Where is it? Up to here. So I could move it at least 3 studs forward without changing the internal structure, without affecting the floor, basically, on the interior. And potentially I could move it even farther than that if I wanted to. I'd just have to lift the first row of first-class passenger seats. But yeah, if I were to redo this from scratch, those were the main small modifications I do. Also, I did leave the nose gear in its default position, and because I raised the body in the back to give extra clearance for these engines, given that the wing was moved down, there's actually a little bit of forward rake. I'm not sure if that is really going to come across on video here based on the angle of the camera and everything. I mean, I could bring it down low, but then you wouldn't see because I've got the white surface here. Anyway, it's just a little bit of forward rake. It's kind of leaning down, which I actually like. I think that's a good look. Some aircraft are leaning down, or at least look like they're leaning down. You know, it kind of varies from model to model and size to size, but yeah, a little bit of that, I don't know. It kind of looks cool to me. And then I did not change anything inside of the cockpit area. I did not record the freeform process of executing these modifications because, again, I just did it on my own time for my own enjoyment because I wanted to. But hopefully I've shown you enough here that if you want to do something like this, you see all the major stuff that you really need. Again, a couple parts up top are pretty important. They make things a lot easier to give yourself the room inside. But otherwise, you know, other than the couple of major parts that I mentioned there, it's just odds and ends, you know, just regular 1x bricks and plates for the most part, little things to make connections, some extra tiles, jumpers are important, and lots of seats, lots and lots of seats. Oh yeah, and of course the window pieces. But hopefully I've shown you enough detail to be able to replicate any of this. If you have any questions about that, I strongly recommend that folks do their own thing, like, you know, do better than I did. If you want to make a conversion like this, make the wing farther forward or bury the wing farther down, doing more customization in the wing root area. It's definitely very, very doable. You can easily go beyond, or just make something that's more unique, you know, that's more you, that goes farther away from Lego's original design. One of my own personal parameters to myself was to keep it close to Lego's original design. But now that I've done that, I actually feel kind of inspired to go farther, to take this back apart to some degree and make it even more custom, make it more of my own design based on something like this and of a similar size, so that maybe I will finally actually have my first airliner above my Lego city. That would be pretty cool. I might just do that, but it won't be too soon. Thank you for watching this, though. I've got a lot more stuff to bring you in other videos, so I'll talk to you again soon.